TT takes pole position with James Alford in his different spec Audi TT alongside. But it's Shane Kelly, who was winner last time out at the Silverstone GP circuit, and another James Alford, a different one, in his Honda Civic EK9. But it's Feroz Billamoria, regular in the championship in his VW Scirocco. He'll start alongside another VW Scirocco of Ben Walkinshaw. But it's Nick Brady's Audi TT and the Owens in their BMW E36. Adam Marshall in his Seat Leon, who's been a regular in other championships, including the Evolution Trophy, who will start 9th, alongside Kevin Sterling in the Renault Clio RS. Row 6 is the first of our BMW Z4s, of which there are a few of those. It's 11th place for him, alongside Mark Jones in the Honda Civic Type R. Molly Pugh and Josh Bromley are in the BMW 1 Series Super Cup car in row 7, alongside Chris Murphy in the second of the Z4s. Brian Rose in his Audi TT, one of the pure track cars. Of course, they've got 3 cars in the field this weekend, alongside another one, which is Graham Price's Renault Clio. Then we have another BMW 1 Series from Bromley Motorsport, another Super Cup car with Chris Stretton and Simon Waterfall, getting some extra track time in before their BMW Super Cup races tomorrow. Then the Novobilskis are starting on the 18th spot on the grid alongside them. Running up for top 20, David Cox's VW Golf, Adam Radford's BMW Z4. Then Ben Taylor doing double duty, starting 21st in his Mazda MX-5 Mark IV that we saw racing in the MX-5 Super Cup this weekend also earlier on. The Dukes in their Z4 start 22nd, and it's Noble and Crozier in another of the BMW 1 Series. So all 3 of those cars are out this weekend today for some extra running. That's alongside Jonathan Glover's Ford Puma, then Mike Parsons' VW Golf, Stephen Watson's Renault Clio, which I think is also a pure track car on the field, Chris Stone's Honda Civic, Tom Curtin's Mazda MX-5 Mark III, Martin Smith's Mini Cooper S, the Standish Davis Mazda MX-5 Mark I, the Graham Waterhouse Honda Civic Type R, Gary Hobbs's Hyundai Coupe, and the Spencer and Payne Suzuki Swift makes up a 33-car entry. Very healthy once again for the ClubSport Trophy as they wind their way on the formation lap. So a pair of Audi TTs on the front row of the grid, a Morgan and a Honda Civic EK9 on the second row, and a pair of VW Scirocco's on row 3. Almost front wheel drive central for this championship series mostly, but it's a very intriguing lineup with some very familiar cars towards the front of the field.
Yes, indeed so. And again, a qualifying session that was definitely weather affected. So whether the drivers that qualified at the front will stay there over the course of 45 minutes, we'll wait and see. What we often see in these ClubSport Trophy races is that the timing of a pit stop can have quite significant effect on your end result. And certainly if we get safety cars, yellow flags in that pit stop window, that can mix things up even further. We have only had one safety car period all day so far because of the very efficient nature of the live snack recoveries that can be carried out here at Donington Park, but we'll be hoping that continues over this race, because we've seen many a ClubSport Trophy race really mixed up because of a mid-race safety car. Hopefully that won't happen here this afternoon. But yeah, good grid of cars, and again, lots of different class battles that we need to keep an eye out for. And as always has been the case with ClubSport Trophy, you get certain cars that you only ever see out in ClubSport, but then there are lots of other cars that are familiar from various other BRSCC championships. Got a couple of the BMW 1 Series, the Audi TTs, we often get Mazda MX-5s and Ford Fiestas out in ClubSport Trophy. It's a really nice mix of cars and a bit of an all-stars race almost for BRSCC championships. There's a pair of those Audi TTs then on the front row, Rory Pickles and James Alford, and Shane Kelly in the Morgan will start from third on the grid, with Feroz Billamoria, another favourite perhaps for the victory, starting behind. Rolling start then for the SW Motorsport ClubSport Trophy. Off we go, 45 minutes of racing at Donington Park, and the power of the Morgan immediately starts to tell. He moves alongside Rory Pickles, does Shane Kelly, then goes to the outside edge of the track altogether, locks up and goes into the gravel. No, Shane Kelly, well, he had all the power, but he couldn't stop the thing into Redgate Corner. Maybe found a damp patch, maybe just hadn't got enough temperature into the tyres and brakes, but either way, the favourite perhaps to win the race is going to rejoin from the gravel trot, not quite at the back of the field, but very close to the back of the field, and a long way further back than he should be, really. Feroz Billamoria has had a good start in the Scirocco. He's gained 2 or 3 positions already, but that was not the ideal start for Shane Kelly.
Definitely not. He went from hero at the Silverstone GP to, well, not quite zero, but kind of like a bit of his own villain down at Redgate Corner by missing his braking point. But he's going to try and pick his way through. He's still got 44 minutes of the race to try and pick his way back up through the order. So we've got, off the start of the race, it's Audi TT, James Alford, who leads the way. It's then the Feroz Billamoria VW Scirocco is second place, then the other James Alford, who always confuses us to no end with two James Alfords racing in club racing these days, in third place. So literally is James Alford first and third. Now that's not a joke, that is actually happening. There he is in third position. There's Rory Pickles, the pole man. But no, it isn't actually. Is that Rory Pickles? No, it might be Nick Brady, in fact. No, it's Pickles. Nick Brady's the one that's in fifth position. So it's Walkinshaw sixth, Marshall, Sterling, Power in the first of the BMW Z4s, and the Brian Rose Audi TT run by Pure Track. That's in the top 10, just ahead of the E36 BMW, which is being run by Oliver and Tom Owen. He's now battling with the Mark Jones Honda Civic EP3 through Redgate Corner. So apart from the drama for Shane Kelly, speaking of which, dramas for Nick Brady's car that's either had an immediate issue or had a drama somewhere that's caused him to lose power or have it off. But that car running very slowly, and the fact that it's right in the middle of the Crayon curves, where there's so many cars packed together at the start of a lap and of the race, means it's very tricky to negotiate. And he very quickly gets spooked off the road onto the grass by a couple of the cars trying to negotiate. But I'm afraid, before his race has barely even started, Andy, that car looks like it's going no further. And
it was in the lead of Class B at the time, so that's unfortunately taken him out of contention for a Class win. Class B will be taken over now by the Renault Clio number 153 of Kevin Sterling. The Audi has some power, but not full power, clearly, so hopefully enough for him to limp around to the pit lane and avoid having to be recovered from the side of the road. There's also then a possibility that they might be able to repair the car and get him back out to at least complete some laps. So James Alford of the Audi TT variety sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:17.275, 1.3 seconds clear of Rose Billamoria, who is about the same distance ahead of James Alford. So he's about the same distance ahead of James Alford as he is behind James Alford is Rose Billamoria. There's a sentence that will confuse anyone who's only half paying attention to us, Scott.
Yeah, so James Alford's first, James Alford, but wait, hold on, not with the reaction to anyone else. Speaking of which, I spotted Shane Kelly after his excursion, unintended excursion at Redgate Corner. He came across the line at the end of lap 1 in 20th. He has now climbed back up to, where's he up to now? It helps me actually refresh my timing screen because it's still showing the CNC Heads drivers. There we go, back up to 12. So he's actually gone back up, in fact, past the Owen BMW, and he's now also about to pass the Mark Jones Honda Civic to put himself back into the top 10 by the beginning of lap 3, which is always impressive. That car's always been quick. It's been run by the, I think, the University of Wolverhampton, I want to say, racing team. And Shane Kelly's done quite a lot. He's done a little bit of racing in Praga in Brit car. He's done some Formula 3 as well, I think, in F3 Cup, or at least running at Castle Coombe, quite frankly. So he's done a lot, has Shane, using all his expertise to not only help guide UWR to build a good car and to run one, but also as well, driving-wise, pick his way past the Civic and go through. The James Alford Audi sets the new fastest lap of the race as they come back towards the chicane at the end of lap number 3. There's one of the many BMW Z4s that this series seems to have inherited over the years. There used to be the Z-Cars series, but those cars, once they had nowhere else to go, literally the entire collective just thought, well, ClubSport Trophy looks fun, and they've all descended on the thing, and they've all stayed for the pretty much, and they all turn out, pretty much every single one of them, every single time, which is great to see, because they've found a home in ClubSport Trophy. They like it, they enjoy it, and they're always quite competitive, and literally, wherever you look in the field, you'll always find a BMW, one of those Z4s. I won't call them pesky because they're quite good, but you always find one somewhere on track wherever anyone else is. It's good to have them, and of course they make quite a nice addition. This one, of course, in particular fighting with Graham Price in that Renault Clio. Good to see Pure Track, of course, running well with 3 cars this weekend. Of course, Matt and Sarah Dennis's team, and that Renault Clio, brought at the start of this season, is quite, in terms of that shape Clio, I have to say, it's actually one of the smartest looking Clios genuine I think I've seen of that shape and era for quite a while. Yeah, good looking car. We know it's a potent car, a very popular car in club racing is the Renault Clio as well, as of course is the MX-5. You can see an example there, Mark III MX-5 coming down the hill towards us, and this a little bit deeper down the order. That's the 152 car, I believe, as finally the ailing Audi makes its way back into the pit lane, that of Nick Brady. And we've also had the Seat Leon number 27 of Adam Marshall in. Billamoria is in the pit lane.
Ah, yes, and this is too early to be a mandatory stop, so a few drivers hitting troubles, and for Rose Billamoria, perhaps most notably, having been running in second position at the time he's in. So there is the Team Brady squad. They're about to go to work on the Audi TT, but more significantly, as far as the overall race is concerned, for Rose Billamoria, who's been a race winner multiple times in ClubSport Trophy, he's in with some sort of drama as well. And so is Adam Marshall, I've noticed. He's going down the timing screen saying in pits. Another one, that was another driver hoping to do well in the Seat Leon.
So I had a chat with him yesterday, just hoping for a good result, but sadly that's not quite worked. We're going to get a preview of tomorrow's action because we've got two of the BMW 1 Series Super Cup cars from Bromley Motorsport at play with each other. We don't get start drivers, sadly, for ClubSport Trophies. We can only say exactly which cars they are, and the two BMWs that are battling amongst each other at the moment, the 1 Series, that is 21, which is the white car with the sort of pink and sort of grey flashes on the side. That is the Molly Pugh Josh Bromley car, and the 241 is the Chris Stretton and Simon Waterfall car behind it. So which one is which, we're not 100% exactly who is at the wheel, but plenty of BMWs in this field, not just the Z4s and the 1 Series, also there's a E36 in there too as well, which is the Oliver and Tom Owen car, which is running up there just outside the top 10, so plenty of action. But yeah, BMW Super Cup is tomorrow, not today, but they give us an early bit of practice, and I think also as well taking the advantage where these cars can run, so they're getting a sneaky bit of extra track time for 45 minutes competitively, so they can get themselves extra dialed in for tomorrow.
Yeah, so Pugh then ahead at the moment of Simon Waterfall. Josh Bromley will take over the 21 car. Bromley, who runs the team that prepares both of those cars. That's going to be an interesting dynamic when he gets into the car at the pit stops, and his car ahead of Simon Waterfall's machine, which gets a much better exit from the chicane. And we'll pull to the outside line. Windscreen wipers again starting to work back and forth on the 241 car, which is to the outside into Redgate. We'll look for a switch back on the exit of the corner. Don't worry about the smoke. That's just been a trademark of the Simon Waterfall BMW since we first saw it last year racing in the 1 Series Super Cup. Can he get up alongside and ahead of the 21 machine, though? No, Pugh hangs on for now. But Simon Waterfall looks very, very racy and wants to try and get this move made as soon as he can. They both, of course, run in the same class, Class C, but they're not the only cars in Class C. That class actually being led by the BMW Z4 that you mentioned earlier on of Kieran Power, who is up inside the top 10. Waterfall finally makes the move now, heading up into McLean's and sweeps past the 21 car, and that is for 6th position in class.
I wonder if the windscreen wiper going 10 to the dozen on that car is either a bit of a just leaving it on for the sake of it, or it is possibly an indication that there is a little bit of rain coming down, because it's a little bit confusing because I'm trying to look out the window and see if there is actually anything falling. It doesn't appear to be any rain, so it's possibly just been kept on as a automated, or forgotten to press the button to turn it off rather than anything else. That's the 73 making its way past. That's the Nick Parsons VW Golf, which is one of the Class A cars a little bit further down the field. And there's David Cox in another of the popular VW Golfs. Very similar shape, not exactly the same shape, slightly different spec, but also Class A. And all four of these cars, in fact, are battling for track position. Of course, these two BMWs for 6th and 7th in Class C, these two Golfs are in a battle for 7th and 8th, and that was Cox looking up the inside of Molly Pugh and almost spooking her out of the way at the apex of Redgate. Through he goes. This now breaks up the 1 Series battle a little temporarily whilst the two Golfs navigate the pair of 1 Series through the Craner curves.
Yep, so Molly then unfortunately slips away from her BMW rival, but might be able to close back in again over the next lap or so. At the head of the field, by the way, we've had a new fastest lap last time by, set by Rory Pickles, who, remember, started on pole in the Audi TT, dropped down the order a little bit earlier on, but has closed in now on James Alford. So nose to tail now for second, because that's changed, hasn't it? It's now James Alford first and second in the race, albeit 8 seconds apart. So Pickles looking to try and redress that situation.
It'd be quite a task for Rob if he gets both of James Alfords together on the podium, first and second, to go James Alford in first. Right, James Alford in second. And again, if anyone doesn't understand, obviously it's not a glitch. They are two different James Alfords. They just happen to have the same name. One, of course, an Audi TT, one in a Honda Civic EK9. And James has always raced Hondas. He's obviously raced the EK9. He's got an EG Civic that he races in the Racing Hondas Championship. And also, as well, he's raced an EP3 before. So quite well versed in Hondas is that James Alford. This one has been... He's had a Golf before, if I'm correct. That's then been converted into... Yes, he's driven a Golf before. I think it's the same car, but he's had it rebodied, if you like, body-wise, into an Audi TT. So he's been working on that for quite a while. And James makes his way onto the pit straight again. He'll have some lap traffic to deal with. That's Stephen Watson's Renault Clio. Tom Curtin in the Clapham North windscreen emblazoned Mazda MX-5 Super Cup car, which obviously they've very hastily put 152 on that car to make it the right number. And just ahead of them is the little Ford Puma of number 96, which is John Glover in the Team Garoba machine, bright yellow, through the Craner curves. And they're about to find that the leader is come a cropper on all three of them. Just catches Watson at slightly the wrong angle at the apex of Old Hairpin, and I thought he was about to move across on him for a moment, but thankfully easily negotiated. And we're getting towards the start of the pit window. It's a 15-minute pit window, opens at half an hour to go, closes at 15 minutes to go. It's a mandatory 2-minute pit stop from pit in to pit out. And of course, if you have solo, if it's solo drive, you don't have to get out of the car. It's simply just come in, stop for a while, and then conduct your pit stop. And then, if it's two driver, of course, change drivers to hand over to your second driver when they're ready to go.
Yes, indeed so. James Alford's leading the race, but by a diminishing margin, actually. Pickles, having got back ahead of James Alford, is starting now to close in on James Alford, 5.2 seconds the margin. I think it's coming down even further on this lap, isn't it? Let's see what the gap is between the two Audi TTs. Yes, 3.4 seconds. Traffic having something to do with that, but I also think there's a genuine pace advantage now for Rory Pickles, who was on pole position only by a tenth and a bit over James Alford in qualifying. But there, the grey and orange Audi is starting to close in on James Alford, the race leader. And he's bringing with him James Alford, the third place man, because that gap is staying at only a second. So the Civic is going with the Audi, and they're both starting to reel in slightly. The leading driver ahead, in fact, I say slightly, nearly 2 seconds quicker that time was Pickles than the race leader. So we could have a battle for the lead just as we head into the pit window, which, as Scott quite rightly says, is only 2.5 minutes away from opening. And a 2-minute pit stop will mean that you lose the best part of a lap and a half. In fact, it will be about a lap and a half that you lose as a result of stopping. So it's going to really mix up the order. And again, that's why we really don't want to see a safety car in that pit window. It's unlikely here because of the live snatch process, but it would certainly turn the race on its head if that were to happen. There is the leader then. James Alford across the line, and let's see now what the lap time is. It looks like maybe the gap stabilised slightly this time around. No, came down by still 4/10, so that gap is continuing to shrink.
And James Alford, after negotiating all of that, Honda James Alford, to get all the lap traffic that we're going through, is starting to come back towards Rory Pickles now these last couple of laps. He's not letting the Audi TT get away as they come back down through the Carrera curves. Just checking on class leaders before we get to our pit stop window. So as you can see, James Alford, Class A leader in the Audi TT. Then you have Rory Pickles trying to negotiate. That's the 183s going past. That's the third of the BMWs. That's the Noble and Crozier car. 183, because they were obviously late entries, given that they obviously took up some spots after the entry this was published. So all three of those Bromley Motorsport BMWs getting some extra track time, as we said. Class B lead is held currently by the Kevin Sterling Renault Clio RS, number 153. Class C lead is held by Kieran Power in the first of those BMW Z4s. So that BMW Z4s literally lock out the first 5 places in Class C. So I think if you've got a BMW Z4, if you're in Class C, you've got a pretty good chance of getting a top 5 at least, particularly where they are. Class D is currently being headed by Tom Curtin in that Mazda MX-5 Mark III from Hills Motorsport. And the Class E lead is held by another Mazda MX-5. That's the Mark I that we haven't really seen too much of in this race. That's car 88. Which is Tom Davis and John Paul Standish in the RPM Motorsport JP racing car. That's currently sat at the moment in 26th position, some 5.5 seconds ahead of Gary Hobbs in the Hyundai Coupe.
Indeed. So 15 minutes into the race nearly, and that means the pit window will be open next time by for the race leader, realistically. But whether James Alford decides to come in early or late, we'll have to wait and see. None of the leading cars are 2 driver entries. There's only about half a dozen or so that are being shared by different drivers. And I think the highest place of those is actually the BMW on your screen now, isn't it? The Owens in their green and white BMW. I don't think it started off as a green and white BMW. I think there's a story to tell behind the front bumper not matching the rest of the car. They're running reasonably well, 911 in 11th position. They're trying to get into the top 10 here. To do so, they'll have to get past Mark Jones in his Honda Civic ahead, number 32. They run in the same class, actually. This is for 3rd place in Class B. 2, again, very different cars, but both with similar power-to-weight ratios, and so therefore running both in Class B. A bit wide there for Owen in the BMW on the car ahead. So Pit window open, and who's going to be the first to blink? Well, the answer is the number 40 car, which is in Adam Radford in his BMW Z4 that runs within Class C. And also, we have got Shane Kelly in. So Shane Kelly, who was running in 4th position after his gravelly excursion on the opening lap. Good recovery drive so far, and he is now into the pit lane at the first possible opportunity.
We've also got the Suzuki Swift in. I think that was the first car, literally the first car to come in. That was the Payne and Spencer. I'm presuming it's either Hayden Payne or Andrew Payne driving that car alongside
Well,
Jake
we'll be able
Spencer.
to tell if we look at the lap time, Scott, once the car goes back out. If it's setting purple sectors, I doubt it's Andrew.
Let the record show that was Andy that said that, not me. I've
got to get one dig in a weekend, haven't I? Come on, he loves it, really. No, it is Hayden. I actually had dinner with them both last night. I doubt I will be tonight after that comment.
Yes.
But yes, it is Hayden Payne who's jumping into that car, I can confirm.
Yeah, Graham Price also in that really smart kind of, almost kind of, you guess you call it primer grey, wouldn't you, really? Kind of primer grey coloured Pure Track Renault Clio. And there isn't the other car in there. It's a mix of their other Clio with their 3-car entry today, being Stephen Watson's car. It's been a regular in the series. Of course, Brian Rose in their Audi TT. Also recently taken on a Honda Civic Type R in their fleet as well. And they've also been helping run a Mini too, so they're starting to expand their reach a little bit in terms of what they can do. Of course, Matt and Sarah Dennis and their very lively squad. There, in fact, right on cue, there is the Graham Price Pure Track car. Can't miss it as well. There is Sarah Dennis hard at work. I think Graham stay ready to go. You can't miss the car because it's the big Union Jack on the side and the Dayglow yellow wheels on the car as well. Just got to tighten the wheel nuts to make sure they are extra firm on the car too. Wider arches, little rear wing on the back, little roof scoop. Nicely put together, that car, nice proportions. There goes Adam Radford, having completed his pit stop. And you can also get the pit lane time, so if anyone will know immediately, if someone has done a too short a stop, you'll be able to see it immediately. And how it works is that if you're short on your pit stop, it's an automatic 30-second penalty. And they just maybe routine check on the Suzuki, although that's one had a bit of a whack on the left-hand side, but also the bonnet's up, but that's been in for longer than 2 minutes, so maybe that initial pit stop has found a more urgent problem. There's Andrew Payne looking on, as Hayden's, I think, describing something, so looks like that pit stop was not quite exactly the routine when it came. It did come in literally as the pit window opened in a few seconds in, so it looked to me as if it was going to be a regular stop on that side. But yeah, with penalties, so if you even have even a fraction under 2 minutes, the penalty is automatically 30 seconds plus the time that you were short. In fact, there, case in point, unfortunately, the Graham Price Renault Clio is at a 1 minute 58.136 pit stop, so I'm afraid that's going to be a it's basically like a 31.9 second pit stop, unfortunately, a penalty for that car, I'm afraid, and that's automatically been pulled up. So there it is. It's no exceptions, even if it's a thousandth of a second too slow, it's still a penalty, I'm afraid.
Caught a glimpse there of the battle for the race lead, by the way. Here it is, look. Rory Pickles has caught James Alford now. And there is less than an Audi TT's length between the two of them. You can see there are a couple of differences between these two cars. There's some sort of a rear diffuser that's been added to the race leading car. The more standard looking car, though, is the quicker of the two and has caught and is now challenging for the race lead. So down the exhibition straight they will go. And this one might end up being decided in the pit lane. Not that you can really have a massively quicker pit stop than anyone else, but the timing of the pit stop could mean that maybe Pickles doesn't need to do this on track. And that is his thinking. Look, he's going to come in. Oh, but they're both in at the same time. So, well, the best laid plans and all that. Maybe he should have reacted to that and stayed out. Neither of them have a second driver waiting, so they could have just waited. So James Alford is in the pit lane, so is James Alford, and Rory Pickles in with them as well. It's the gift that keeps on giving, that, isn't it? And they're all stopping at different points of the pit lane, helpfully, but in theory, they should all come back out of the pit lane pretty close together, because actually James Alford was only 3.1 seconds off the race lead at the time of the pit stop.
All depends on how much over they go over the 2 minute time, because you go over it just to be absolutely safe, but you don't really get that chance to practice this kind of thing because it's 2 minutes, but you only have a 20-odd minute qualifying session to be able to go in and set your times. As in comes the Crozier and Noble BMW 1 Series Super Cup car. Some quick brake cooling going on for Rory Pickles. Also see as well, yeah, that Jake Spencer, Hayden Payne, Suzuki Swift still in the pit lane. John Glover's Ford Puma also making its stop. I think there is also a rule which, forgive me for tattling, I think John Glover's not quite adhering to, which I think, technically neither is James Alford. I think you have to be stopped at a 45-degree angle. I think. I could be wrong, but I think in the race that might have been a rule before. But and that said, the grand price for Renault Clear wasn't, so maybe it's an old rule that got chucked out. I'm not 100%.
Possibly. Well, let's hope so. Don't really want penalties coming into this and affecting the end result. But we'll wait and see if that is going to be the case or not. 2-minute 3 pit stop for the number 96 car. That's good. That's all above board. And hopefully we'll see similar numbers for our race leaders. I'm intrigued to see who comes out where in this. The bonnet's up, isn't it, on the James Alford Audi? Hopefully they're just trying to cool it off. Off goes Pickles. Now he was further towards pit entry, but I don't see any sign of movement from the James Alford car, so that's a change of net race lead, and I think there's an issue. Yes, there goes James Alford, other James Alford, past the Audi James Alford, but Rory Pickles is potentially going to get a penalty because he's 0.6 of a second or so under the 2-minute marker, whereas Honda Civic James Alford was at 1.1 seconds over, so James Alford might have lost the lead, but James Alford might also be about to inherit the lead if we get a penalty for Pickles.
You never said that before, have you?
It's a tongue twister, that, isn't it?
It is a tongue twister, particularly if has no concept of what's going on. Just joined in and thought, why are you talking about James Alford losing lead and then getting it back again straight away? But
wouldn't be the first time someone tuned in and thought I'd lost my mind, though, Scott, I must say.
Neither the same with me, don't worry. Right, now, the fact they are looking at things on laptops with James Alford's car suggests that you're absolutely right, that not all is well with the TSR performance machine. This is not a routine stop that they should be making. So sadly, it's another car that's come in and had a problem. So, and from what was the race lead, and James Alford's car, Audi James Alford, has unfortunately had times when his car has not been as user-friendly, shall we say, in terms of reliability as it could and should have been. As Pure Track go to work again on their Stephen Watson. Cleo. Payne Spencer's car goes out. I think it's definitely safe with its pit stop time of 7 minutes 14 seconds. As our Jeremy Cameron guy is slightly getting in the way unintentionally, and the Dukes and Dukes BMW again. It's harsh, but it's still under 2 minutes, so they have to penalise. So typically, it's usually a 100% record. If you're underneath it, even by a fraction of a second, again, it's the regulation. You have to take a penalty, and literally it can be 30.6 seconds. But it's 0.6 is what gives you an extra 30, unfortunately, on top of that. There is the Molly Pugh, Josh Bromley BMW. Molly Pugh, of course, has just jumped out. And the other cars in as well. So they've been battling on track together, so this is going to be possibly calculated to bring both cars in together. Simon Waterfall, whose car it is now getting into the car after Chris Stretton, I think, was in it to begin with, I think.
I had Waterfall in first, but they could have changed this, of course. They do have a habit of doing this, but on my sheet, Simon Waterfall was in for the first stint. We'll try and get to the bottom of that if we can. Into the pit lane goes the James Alford Audi, though. Well, that's spoiled our fun, hasn't it? Sadly, not only do we lose a battle for the lead, but that's the last James Alford joke we can make, I think, in this race. But the other James Alford is going well, and potentially might inherit the lead. In fact, might not need the penalty for Pickles to inherit the lead, because I think he's perhaps going a little bit more quickly than the Audi ahead of him. Of course, all of these pit times we're seeing on the screen, they will be double-checked by race control, so just because we're showing it as being under the time might not be 100% accurate. Race control will have access to more data courtesy of TSL, the timekeepers, which will allow them to figure out for definite whether these pit stops are illegal or not. We'll start hearing in the next few minutes, I'm sure, if there are any penalties to be given, although that one is significantly under the Waterfall and Stretton BMW. That's 7.7 seconds nearly. That, I suspect, is well beyond any margin for error, and I think that may well be a penalty heading their way.
Definitely so. I think that's totally conclusive evidence that that is a too short a pit stop. There is a close-up of the Hyundai being timed for its pit stop at the moment. That car's come in from quite high up overall from where it was, because it's a Class E leader given all the pit stops that have been going through. It's currently sat in 17th, so it's been quite dizzying heights of mid-pack for that car, which is good to see. There is Graham Price's Renault, which is behind Chris Stone's Honda Civic. But Graham Price is one of the first ones to be pinged by at least our timing system on the feed here to show that he was under. Into the pit lane comes Ben Walkingshaw in his sort of striking sort of yellow and blue flash adorned VW Sirocco. In it comes, and Ben had been the leader at that point, so he's coming in. So Kevin Sterling now will come in, and The only cars that haven't made their stops yet are Kevin Sterling's Renault Clio, the Novobilskis in their BMW Z4, and Chris Murphy in his BMW Z4. There goes Kevin Power, very safe on his pit stop. A bit too safe, 2:28, but again, better safe than sorry in getting a penalty. Whilst all this has been happening, very quietly moving up the order has been our friend Shane Kelly, because he's now back in the Morgan. He came across the line in 9th place, but he'll make up a couple more spots because now Sterling's coming in. So is also Brian Rose, who's making his stop. So we've just got the last two BMW Z4s to make their scheduled 2-minute pit call. A little bit of a tyre pressure tweak for Walkinshaw as his stop gets underway. Here comes the Novobilskis. They've also just hit the pit lane, so just waiting on Chris Murphy, which he does also. So that is now everyone has at least taken one pit stop, at least the intended pit stop to do so. So I'm intrigued to see now how this all works out. Well, Kelly actually is behind Alford and Pickles, but his lap times, his last lap was a 1:19.4 as Brian Rose at the Audi. So that's another pure track pit stop. It's been under. That's by 10 seconds. That's another one. So politely, I think pure track need a new stopwatch.
Yes, I think that's not a bad idea. It is a complicated process certainly for teams like this. You know, they're not dealing with GT World Challenge level teams who have got, you know, fairly sophisticated equipment and lots of time to practice this minimum pit stop time thing. You know, if you take something like British GT, where we have a similar rule, they've got 2 nearly 1 hour practice sessions in which to practice coming in and out of the pit lane and practice the driver change and everything else that needs to be done, because it's not just a stationary time, it is 2 minutes from the pit entry line to the pit exit line. So any team really should be able to time 2 minutes stationary, because you just don't let the car go until the 2 minutes are up. But it's rather more difficult to judge it when you've got to have the transition in and out of the pit lane. The number 50 squad, they've done a really good job. They were only 7/10 of a second over the 2 minute mark. But other teams getting it slightly wrong, at least by our numbers. But we haven't actually seen any penalties appearing on the timing screen just yet. So we'll wait and see whether anything like that does appear over the remaining 17 minutes. So 2 minutes of the pit window remaining, but actually everyone has now pitted, some still in the process of doing their pit stops. The 91 squad, the Novobilskis, with Elliott having started the car, we believe, helping to push the car back out. But that's about it now for pit stops. Rory Pickles then takes over the race lead by 2.1 seconds over Honda Civic James Alford. And in third position is going to be who? I think it will be Shane Kelly. Yes, it is. But he is 16.5 seconds off the lead of the race. All of those top 3 running in Class A. This is for position again, though, isn't it? This is the 911 car, the Owen BMW. Still stuck behind Mark Jones's Honda Civic, and this is still for position within Class B, for a podium place no less within Class B. And they've been nose to tail before the pit stops, and now several minutes after their pit stops. The BMW unable to leapfrog the Civic through the pit cycle, so now Owen's going to have to do this on track.
Certainly is. Pit window is about to close, but thankfully everyone has completed their mandatory stop, so that's good to see. So, of course, it's only after the pit window closes that they then start to work out exactly who has been going under the pit lane pit time, and therefore start handing out penalties within that last 15, usually the last 10 to 5 minutes of the race. So those penalties start to crop up, even as cars are coming through at the checker flag at the end. They tend to start coming through. So into the chicane, a little wayward there for Mark Jones on the apex. The first part of the chicane went a little too deep, and this now gives the run for Owen to have a look down the outside. Front-wheel drive Honda Civic EP3 Type R versus rear-wheel drive BMW with that kind of super touring-esque body kit, and he sweeps to the inside line. Jones gives him the space, gives him the room, and unfortunately has to give him the place as a result. So the Misty Racing Civic capitulates and lets the BMW through. He did try to get the up and under on the exit of the corner, but there wasn't enough momentum or push off the corner for Jones to manage that. So the next car he'll come across now is at the moment going to be the Graham Price Renault Clio that's up there in 7th position, but that car is some 14 seconds up the road, but it's probably about to get a penalty anyway, which will bring it that little bit closer if the pace is good enough to try and catch it. His last lap was a 1:22.3, so it's at least a second quicker. Back in the pit lane has come the number 73, I think that's Mike Parsons in the VW Golf. It is, so unfortunately a problem for Mike. He's done his scheduled stop, and the pit window is essentially closed anyway, so if he hadn't, he'd be in trouble with a penalty anyway. So Now this is all shaking out. Class leaders. Roy Pickles leads the way by 2.1 seconds from James Hawford's Honda Civic, with Shane Kelly now into third place. And they're all lapping in the 117s, but Pickles is the quickest one, 117.1. Brian Rose's Audi leads Class B, but we think that's a penalty incoming for that one after a short pit stop, which means that will certainly help Kevin Sterling get back to the front in his Renault Clio. If the pit stop, it's going to be a 30 seconds plus how much it was short pit stop penalty anyway. So that should give the net class lead at the moment now to Kevin Sterling. Class C is now Kieran Power's BMW Z4, and again, I was about to say it was a complete BMW Z4 lockout on the top 5. It's not, because the Waterfall Stretton car, well, is in 5th place now, but that's getting a penalty by the looks of it also, according to the timing on our screen. So that's currently there. Class D is being led by Stephen Watson, so that is now up him into the lead past the Tom Curtin Mazda MX-5s. There's some reason for Pure Track to possibly smile here today, because despite a couple of tricky pit stops, they have got one of their cars up into the lead of a class. And in Class E lead, you have currently Gary Hobbs in the Hyundai Coupe in 25th position.
Indeed so. There is the potential, though, for a couple of those to change. Certainly Class B, Brian Rose, 5th place overall at the moment in his Audi, is being caught by the Renault Clio number 153 of Kevin Sterling. That gap, down to 2.1 seconds. The last 2 or 3 laps consecutively, that gap has come down. So with just under 13 minutes of the race remaining, there's still the potential for some significant positional changes out there. As there goes the Suzuki Swift, which has been vacated now by Hayden Payne. Good to see that car's got back out there after its lengthy pit visit, whatever the issue was. There is James Alford's second-placed car. The gap between the leaders ebbing and flowing slightly as we do now start to get some of these penalties in. So the most obvious of those was the 241 BMW, which has a 38-second time penalty. This will all be added on at the end of the race, and this is where things get even more complicated, Scott, because we're going to end up, I suspect, with quite a few teams picking up time penalties up and down the order, and it means the order that they're in on the timing screen now is not necessarily going to be the order they'll be in when the checkered flag flies.
So if we begin unintentionally saying results but ending in an upward inflection, saying so this person is in 5th position, possibly, because it might change in a minute. There's another car on screen there that I think unfortunately is set to get a penalty. That's one of the 2 cars that we think are going to be penalised, because we said Brian Rose's car is, right on cue, like TSL was listening, or the race control was it's getting a 40-second time penalty for how many seconds it was short. So that's going to be seeing it drop down. What was the Class B lead? We were anticipating that. So even if Kevin Sterling was catching, he was going to be given the Class B lead anyway because of the penalty. So that means that's 40 seconds that will push him down the order. And where will that push him in terms of Class B? Well, it'll put him behind, I think, also. It'll put him behind the Owens and the BMW. And March, it'll take him off the class podium, unfortunately. So it'll push him down to at least back down off the podium to 4th downwards. And yeah, I think there'll be some other penalties that will come in and start to confuse it a bit. There's the next one. That's the Dukes with their 31-second penalty. Remember, it's 30 plus how much you're short. So again, if it's a fraction of a second, unfortunately, rules are the rules. A penalty is a penalty. So you have to take the slap on the wrist, no matter how short or how much you're over the under the pit stop time, as that was the Owen and Owen BMW just negotiating the rejoining Mike Parsons in his BMW, Volkswagen Golf. And just over 10.5 minutes to go, and just keeping an eye on how these battles are going to play out. I think that the lead battle in the top 3 looks intriguing. The fact that Alford in the Civic is not catching. He lost a second and a half last time to Pickles. The gap is 3.9. They're coming across the line now, and Pickles has a time penalty. So the race, of course, because you got that short one as well, so that's 30 seconds. So again, another one, like with Kevin Sterling behind Brian Rose, it's an Audi TT with a penalty, and so James Alford doesn't have to pass Rory, but of course I think the interesting thing is going to be is that given the gaps, is there the potential with the time left that he's going to be caught by Shane Kelly? I say that, the gap is 18 seconds, and Kelly has just lost 2.6 seconds, so it's ebbing and flowing, but James Alford could be on course here to actually pick up a victory by not even needing to be the first car passing the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is Shane Kelly, look, dropping down the crane of curves and pushing on all the time. Oh, the Pugh and Bromley car has a track limits or a time limits penalty, as that graphic says. I think that is a misspell. Track limits penalty of 5 seconds. I mean, the timing screen is now starting to light up red. We've got 6 cars already who have been given penalties, and I think there might be some others to come. So, yeah, and this is going to have some significant effect on the classes, because remember the Brian Rose Audi, that was leading Class B. Well, that has a penalty, so will mean that Kevin Sterling will inherit the lead of Class B. He was catching Rose anyway, but will definitely inherit the lead of the class now. 3 of the Class C BMWs have picked up penalties. And, of course, our overall and Class A race leader, who is 4.5 seconds or so ahead of James Alford. But James is going to easily inherit the win, provided no dramas befall him in the closing stages. So there is the race leader, Rory Pickles, but he's not really the race leader on corrected times, with the, 38 seconds, 34 seconds, I forget now, between the penalty to be added on to his race, as it all gets very congested here through McLean's corner.
Yeah, a bunch of BMWs also all over each other. That's a bit of a BMW 1 Series versus Z4 battle, as I was about to say that windscreen wiper is still going, even though it's not raining. And I thought I saw a couple of very light, what looked to be spots or glimpses of raindrops on the camera up at McLean's. It's looking, not just the trick of the camera light, but it's looking a little bit darker out there. Only a fraction. There have been some very looming darker clouds looming over Donington Park for quite a while, as that was the 241 car almost skimming the inside tyre stack for the first part of the chicane. And there is, effectively, regardless of what the timing screen currently says, your current net race leader. There is James Alford in the Honda Civic EK9. And now it's BMW 1 Series at play. The two of them side by side into Redgate. That is 21 on 241. So that we think is Bromley on Waterfall, we think. Or could be 1 or 2. Oh, and that's Tom Curtin's MX-5. That had been leading before, but that was second at the time of the spin. And in the worst place you want to be, which is trying to refire the car and hoping that nobody comes a cropper and causes you a mischief. So that car stayed sideways, which suggests he's just lost it on the bump or something alongside. We don't know if he jumped or if he was pushed, but it looks like more was possibly a self-inflicted spin.
Yes, but that's not a good place to be stuck. And because we are now nearly 40 minutes into this race, the field spread is covering the whole track pretty much. So whether he can ever find a gap in the traffic to rejoin is perhaps doubtful, as there the Simon Waterfall car goes a bit wide. That is good news. The Mazda carries on. Smoke from the car? Tyre smoke? No, that's still smoking, I would say.
It definitely wasn't wheel spin. He wasn't getting away with that much vigour. It was just more of a steady getaway than anything else.
So, okay, maybe that would explain a little bit why the car ended up in that position in the first place then. Anyway, race leader Rory Pickles, race leader on the road Rory Pickles, comes through the chicane. There is the Honda of James Alford that leads on corrected times, and 6 minutes and 20 seconds away now from claiming the race victory. But still, a lot to be done, a lot of traffic to negotiate. He is starting to really get held up by the traffic now, and he's got even more lapped cars ahead. On the previous lap, Shane Kelly was 5 seconds quicker, and on that lap, 3 seconds quicker than Alford. He's 13.6 seconds back. That's a big lead, but if Alford is too cautious through the lapped cars, then Shane Kelly's Morgan could start to loom ever larger in his mirrors. He won't be able to see it just yet, but yeah, that could be a drama for him in the closing stages. There is Shane Kelly dropping down the hill with the BMW, the Owen BMW there just ahead. This is a battle for track position, actually, between Price and Owen. 7th place overall. They're in different classes, and Price has got a time penalty, but those two cars battling for on-track position as the second-place driver comes up to lap them.
James Alford working his way through traffic. Now 13 seconds in what? 5 and a bit minutes. 5.5, 6 minutes is quite a tall order for Shane Kelly, but I think he's probably done slightly more impossible things, particularly with the Morgan. So we'll see how well he negotiates some of that traffic that's around him also, and see how much you can get through. We'll look at lap times to see who is where. Through comes Alford onto the pit straight, and some more BMW battles all the way. Adam Radford has a 5-second time penalty, must be for track limits. So Alford did last time by 1:19.402, and Kelly will, well, last lap he completed before this one he's about to was 1:19.0. There's a 1:18.5, so he's closer, quicker by another second or so. But again, he's not chipping away at Willie quick enough, as the Crozier Noble BMW now gets a penalty. So, unfortunately, I think for Bromley Motorsport, that's all 3 of their 1 Series Super Cup cars that have been hit with penalties, 2 of which are track limits penalties, 1 of which is a pit stop penalty. So whether their taste for Club Sport trophies now being slightly not diminished because of the penalties, we'll wait and see. But I think for them it is more a well-publicised test session, shall we say, in terms of getting themselves ready for tomorrow, of course, when they have 2 races for the Nankang Tyre BMW Super Cup to negotiate tomorrow. So I guess they're just being extra prepared for what's at stake tomorrow.
Yes, good track time, isn't it, for tomorrow's race? And of course, that's sort of where ClubSport Trophy began, actually, a number of years ago. It was always tagged on to the end of the weekend. It was sort of advertised as an extra 45 minutes of track time for those who wanted it. So it was often a grid full of Mazda MX-5s or Honda Civics or BMW Compacts, for example, that had been racing that weekend. And quite quickly, it started to gather its own following, and teams and drivers who would specifically come to do the ClubSport Trophy race. But yeah, it always was a good opportunity for extra track time. Shane Kelly here is about to realise why he was gaining so rapidly on James Alford over the last few laps, because he's has caught and is now negotiating the knot of lapped traffic that was delaying James over previous laps. He was slower that time by a tenth than Alford, so I think Alford is pretty secure in what we believe is still going to be a net race leading position.
But the intriguing thing is that was Shane Kelly doing a 1:18.8, even though he was getting held up by traffic. So he was probably on a quicker lap anyway. It's just the fact that he was getting held up by the cars around him that would have been gained more time had he actually been able to do that. He's got one of the Bromley Motorsport BMWs in front. I think that's the Waterfall and Stretton car that would be ahead of him. There's a massive gaggle of cars he's got to try and negotiate here. Yeah, if it wasn't game, set, match before, it might well be here. He's got to try and get past the Brian Rose Audi, 2 of the BMW Z4s, the recovering Suzuki Swift. And yeah, just trying to pick them off one by one. But I think he'll have to settle for what will be second place in the category. They're all over each other. That's pretty much game, set and match now, if it wasn't before. Through the apex of Coppice Corner, he's literally boxed in by cars all around him. You've got actually the Owen & Owen BMW, which is there in 7th place. Overall, he finally makes his way out of the melee, but I think he has to accept on this occasion, Andy, that the victory and the gap that he has is well and truly gone.
I think he'd be glad just to survive that lap, to be honest, in one piece, because that was a huge amount of traffic that he caught at quite a fast part of the track through Starkey's and Schwantz Curve. And yeah, did well actually just to pick his way through that. Into the pit lane out of that group actually came the Ford Puma, the number 96 car of John Glover. So he's got some sort of a late race drama.
Just mentioned, we almost completely missed it, but I've just spotted. So the Owen & Owen BMW is now in the lead of Class B because because Kevin Sterling was there, but the BMW's powered its way past Sterling, and of course is ahead of Brian Rose anyway with the penalty. So up from what was 3rd place at one point, we actually have a new Class B leader on that lap. So he took the lead on that lap alone. He was ahead by 0.7 of a second of Brian Rose's Audi because those 2 cars were in that gaggle together. So such has been the pace. It's been pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, Gade got past both of them on that lap, didn't he? You're right. So yeah, well spotted. 5th place overall. Okay, he would have got past Rose on corrected time anyway, but the pass against Sterling in the Renault, that was a genuine pass for the lead and potentially the win in Class B, because we're about to start the final lap of the race. There goes Rory Pickles, the on-track race leader, and there is James Alford, who can just stroke this home now. He's not going to be under any threat from Shane Kelly. He's well within the 30-odd seconds of Rory Pickles that he needs to inherit the win once that penalty is applied at the checkered flag. And so James Alford is going to pick up a race victory, it would seem, and just needs to negotiate the final couple of miles of racing, and he will win this SW Motorsport ClubSport Trophy race. Still some battles to be settled further back, many of them affected by penalties. That running order is going to change quite dramatically, I think, in about a minute's time, isn't it?
Very much so. There's plenty of moving red spaces on the timing screen as we swatch James Alford. I think just going through with the shot in the foreground, there was the on-track leader, which is Rory Pickles, as the Payne and Spencer Suzuki Swift is back in right at the end of the race, so no problem for them. But they come up the hill and towards Coppice for the final time, and while yes, it will be the Rory Pickles Audi TT that will cross the line first, this is the main focus, of course that is going to change in a moment's time. James Alford He's always been a decent front runner. That car's been pretty good. We'll at least see him across the line anyway, but this car, of course, is going to be the on-track race leader as he comes across the line to take the flag. But, of course, behind him, it is going to be, as the penalties now start to get applied, it's going to be a victory for the EK9, and James Hall, I think, will be very delighted at that to take a top-step finish. Doesn't happen often, but it's happened today.
Yep, across the line he goes then. So James Alford will win on corrected times the SW Motorsport ClubSport Trophy at Donington Park, and Shane Kelly is going to inherit second place, I believe. He's within 30 seconds or so of the race leader. Yes, he is. I think Pickles should hang on to third.
And that is Walkinshaw, who would have been third, and he keeps it because Walkinshaw came in with a problem.
Yes, he does. Yes, so, okay, not sure what that issue was, but something quite serious for him to not cross the line. He'll potentially cross the line in the pit lane, I suppose, Michael Schumacher style, but that is going to cost him a chance, as you said, of a podium overall and within Class A. The VW Scirocco ran in Class A as well. Right, other class winners. We've had the Class B winners, the Owens in their BMW E36 across the line, winning that class by 4.5 seconds in the end over the Renault Clio of Kevin Sterling after that late pass. Class C win has gone to Kieran Power in the number 24 BMW Z4. Class D, yes, we've had the winner across the line in Class D, and that's the 107, which is Stephen Watson in his Renault Clio. Class E victory by just under 16 seconds goes the way of number 38. That is Gary Hobbs in the Hyundai Coupe. And that is it, I think, isn't it? Yes, so 5 different classes, 5 class winners, all home safe, and an entertaining, if at times slightly complicated race with those various penalties being handed down, which goes the way in the end of at least one of the James Alfords, even if it wasn't the one that led for much of the first half of that race. But James Alford of the Honda Civic variety gets the victory, Shane Kelly second, and Rory Pickles third, all of them running in Class A. Class B victory goes to the Owens in the BMW, ahead of Kevin Sterling. Then it was Ben Walkinshaw and Kieran Power who was the winner in Class C. Next was Brian Rose ahead of Graham Price, then Chris Murphy, Adam Radford, and the Pugh and Josh Bromley BMW in 12th position. The Novobilskis were next, then the Dukes. The Crozier and Noble 1 Series was 15th ahead of David Cox. Then it was the Simon Waterfall Chris Stretton car in 17th ahead of Chris Stone, and Stephen Watson, a class winner in Class D, was 19th ahead of Martin Smith and Tom Curtin. Gary Hobbs gets the victory in the Hyundai, as I said, in Class E, and there you can see the 5 cars at the bottom that we lost, perhaps most notably even James Alford's Audi TT and Feroz Billamoria's VW Scirocco, both of them potential race winners.
Definitely.